Deep in the jungles of Chult, a hazardous land full of undead and giant dinosaurs, a darkness began to grow, a darkness that would shake the world to its foundations. In a Furbolg village on the northern tip of Chult, four unlikely heroes gathered as the dark omens pressed them to set the world right. Alba, a troubled ranger from another world. Nixfada, a Tabaxi warlock that spoke to shadows. Fernarin, a young Furbolg cleric of Aldath, and her older cousin Meterin, a druid just returning to them from years of isolation in the caves of the nearby mountains. Our story starts as the residents of Terrarin recovered from an invasion of undead. The clan mother Willorin beseeched our young adventurers to seek out information in the human settlements about what trouble was brewing in Chult after visions of destruction, similar to those Meterin received in his seclusion, troubled her about the continued existence of their clan. Each having their own reasons for the journey, they set out to Port Nyanzaru, traversing difficult jungle, horrible weather, and deadly enemies to find the chaos of the port overwhelming. There they met the merchant prince Wakongo Tamu, who led them to Sindra Sylvain, a worn and weathered elf that told the group they themselves were once an adventurer that had died and been resurrected, but now was affected by the death curse that plagued the world. It seemed for some reason that resurrection magic was no longer working, and any who had benefited from it was now fading back into the grave. Sindra beseeched the group to help end this curse by seeking out an item they knew only as the Soulmonger, which they believed through their research to be located somewhere in Chult. Research which had also allowed Sindra to create an incomplete map of Chult, which they provided to the party, as well as a promise of a boon if they could solve this mystery and end the horrible affliction before it once again claimed their life. Leaving Sindra, Wakanga asked the group to locate an amulet for a shield guardian called Vorn that had been abandoned in the jungle several decades ago, and offered a spellbook or similarly valued item as a reward. While in the port, they also came across a drunken, self-absorbed author of a book of monsters called Volo. Seeking guidance, they approached Grandfather Zatembe, the head of the Temple of Savras, a god of divination. Zatembe told them to return the next day as he consulted the guides. As they retired for the evening, they were bumped into by a man in a robe covered in many eyes that said, "Speak to the wise guardian of Oralunga, west of Mbala, for she can direct you to that which you seek." The man promptly passed out, only to regain consciousness a few seconds later, with no recollection of the event. Returning to the Temple of Savras in the morning, Grandfather Zatembe seemed troubled and haunted, but told them he had visions of a jungle city far to the south, enclosed by cliffs and crawling with snakes, as well as a black obelisk draped in vines, but that he dared not peer any deeper for fear of the darkness. During their departure, they were approached by an acolyte of the temple named Dinete that offered to hire them for an escort to the Aldani Basin to confirm her vision of red wizards, and a heavily armored half-orc female named Undril that asked to join their party as far as Camp Vengeance. The group purchased a canoe and began traveling up the river Soshenstar. After over a 10-day of travel and a few strange encounters, the group came upon an abandoned camp and a large building that looked like a man carrying a crocodile upon his back. The House of Man and Crocodile, as Anette informed them it was called, turned out to be heavily guarded with traps which nearly killed Nixfada. As they abandoned their attempts to infiltrate the structure, they were ambushed by a tribe of goblins, which they made short work of, but not before the goblins blew a horn, and minutes later hordes of undead swarmed the area. The group began to pile into the canoe, and Nixfada pushed them off into the river, and summoned her shadowy weapon before diving into the horde while the group floated away. Harsh words were spoken that night, and in the morning the ranger was also gone.